In today's video, we're going to be going over how to create a killer Etsy listing in 2025. And to do this, we're going to be going through Etsy's new article, The Anatomy of a Well-Crafted Etsy Listing, and I'm going to be throwing in my own expertise, things I've learned along the way in my 3 years of selling, of how to make an Etsy listing that sells, along with a bunch of bonus tips at the end. The first thing they talk about is listing photos and how you should actually not be using text on your main photo, and you shouldn't be using collages either. Will having text on your Etsy listing actually hurt you? It probably won't if it's small text that isn't taking up a lot of the view of your main photo, but you do not want to distract from your main photo. Think about how your Etsy listing, your main photo, actually is also going to be showing up on Google. And some of the text that you might put for an Etsy listing might not do well on Google, but you are driving traffic also from Google. So you have to think about what type of photo is going to work for both. So usually using just a plain photo, a mock-up with a very clear view of your design is what is going to actually drive sales. Etsy does recommend using all 10 images because it gives a lot more information about your product. I don't think using all 10 is absolutely necessary and may detract, but why they recommend having so much is so that you can have different types of views, different types of information cards that might help someone buy from you. This might be more important for some products more than others. If you sell jewelry, you might want to have a picture of it in each color. You want a picture of someone wearing it. You want a picture of it on the floor, maybe. Different viewpoints so people can see and visualize how this is actually going to look when they purchase it. I make sure I have a photo for each variation that I sell. So if I sell 3 color sweatshirts, I'm going to have 3 different photos in there of the different colors. I also might want a folded mock-up, and then maybe I want a photo of someone wearing it so someone can see how it fits. I might include my size guides if that's important to what you sell, a fit guide, maybe an information card that might help someone make a decision. So you don't have to utilize all 10, but 10 is probably a good number, again, depending on what you sell, to cover enough information that is going to help someone make that decision to purchase from you. They also mentioned down here that you should be using a height and width of at least 2,000 pixels. So when you are creating mock-ups or taking photos, make sure the shortest size is 2,000 pixels. For your title, you should be using descriptive key phrases that are relevant to your design. And you should keep in mind that the most relevant descriptive one should be at the very start of your title, because shoppers only see the first few words of your title when they're looking at search results. So make sure you're using that space to describe what your item is. So you want to use clear, keyword-rich phrases that people would actually type into the search bar. That is always something I'm always thinking about. Is someone actually going to type this into the search bar? And Etsy actually hammers that in multiple times throughout this article. And here they say, for example, a keyword like handmade ceramic mug with blue floral design is way more specific and is probably going to be searched more likely than just the word mug. They also say do not keyword stuff. And what this looks like is when people put a bunch of single keywords all smushed together that aren't in phrase format. So they'll put things like mug, mom, gift, teacher, and it doesn't really make sense with the product you're selling, and they're just one word keywords that just look so messy when put all together. Your title should be concise and using key phrases that people are actually going to type into the Etsy search bar. The next is, how do you price your products? And the big thing about this is mostly about shipping. For Etsy, they don't want to be showing people an item that's $7, but then is $15 shipping. People are not going to convert after seeing that. So Etsy does encourage you to bake some of your shipping prices into your product price so that you can reduce the shipping prices. Etsy has also recently stated that anything that is charging over $6 USD for US shipping is going to be ranked lower. So make sure you're not going over $6 USD, and maybe even bring it down further and bake some of those shipping costs into your product price. I personally am not charging that cheap. I want to make profit with my store. I would rather sell less products at a higher markup that still gives me the same amount of sales, but less customer service headaches, less refunds, less things to deal with, honestly, for the same amount of profit. I actually charged cheaper last year, and I made more revenue last year if you compare 2023 to my 2024. I get that it's 2025 now, but I keep forgetting. But in 2023, I made more revenue, but a lot less profit because I was charging so low and I offered free shipping. Last year, I added in some shipping, still keeping underneath $6, and I made more profit. I also find that if you're just trying to sell and your main sales point is that you're offering this for super cheap, that's the type of person you're attracting. The type of person who wants to buy a shirt for $7 is also the person who's more likely to complain about any issues. I find when you sell for a higher price, the people often are expecting quality and they're getting quality. They're less likely to complain. They're less likely to hassle you for refunds or discounts. And I've just found it so much easier, again, to deal with less complaints than having way more sales, but still making the same profit. So stop worrying about charging less than your competitors, but creating better listings and offering different things than your competitors so you can get that higher price. I find one of the easiest ways to decide on my pricing is to use the Everbee calculator because you can put in what shipping price you plan to offer, what sales price, what discounts if you run discounts on your store. And then you can also put in your cost of item, your advertising if you pay for advertising. I do not pay for advertising, so it makes my calculations a little bit easier. And then I keep going until at least I am making a 30% profit. So I'll keep playing with this until I get to a price that I am happy with. Your estimated delivery date is also going to be really important for people. Some people want their product fast, and Etsy shows them when they can expect their product. So if it says they're not getting it for 2 months, they might look at your competitors. So make sure you're setting accurate production times. So if you can usually ship out in 4 days, to give yourself leeway, I would usually do 1 to 6 business days to ship out your product. And then if some are about to run over, don't forget that you can go into your order and you can update your dispatch date and add a few days to it so that you're actually not crossing over and having an issue with your star seller being dinged. And that's why I'm usually also trying to find people who are shipping. So if you use Printify, for example, I love using SwiftBot because they usually use USPS to ship, and usually things arrive a lot faster than people shipping with DHL. I also do not offer economy shipping, so people can pay less for it to take longer. I just offer a flat standard shipping so people can get their products pretty fast and so that I can show on my listing a shorter time frame for delivery. You also need to have your shop policies in place. They don't really say that you need to offer refunds or exchanges, but they do say you need to have it actually set up, and you will get a bigger boost as well if you use their template. So when you go to your storefront and you scroll down to your policies, you can create a policy, and Etsy already has this template for you. You can flick this on, off, use a time frame, and save this. And this is the Etsy template that you should be using so that they can read and understand your shop policies in which they're going to rank you higher for having. So do you need to offer refunds and exchanges? No, I do not in my store, because otherwise it's just gonna cost me. So I make sure that I am not really offering this unless there's a quality issue in which my supplier will send a replacement or refund me instead, so I'm not out of pocket. But as a brand new store, it might help you start getting those initial sales, so you might want to have it on at the beginning, and if you can afford it, so that if people are not sure if they trust your store yet, at least they know you offer refunds and exchanges, which might be the extra push to get them to purchase from you. And if you run a different type of store where you can easily take in refunds or exchanges, then turn this on. But again, it's absolutely not a necessary. But what is necessary is that at least you have your policies set up. Your Etsy listing is read for SEO, at least the top part. And the rest of it is just really important to be able to give information to your customers in a digestible way. I often see people write their description as a giant block of text. No one's going to read that. I separate my descriptions with different headings, bullet points, so that people's eyes naturally flow to the information to find what they're looking for when trying to make a decision when buying from me. So for the top of my description, I'm usually putting something like, say I have a soccer mom shirt, calling all soccer moms. This custom soccer mama sweatshirt is the perfect gift for soccer lovers and moms with kids playing this fabulous game. Something along that lines. Often I will use ChatGPT to help me write this. For example, I paste in my title or some of my tags and say, using these keywords, write a max 200 character count description of my sweatshirts for the top of my Etsy description. And then I will pull this and put this at the top of my description. One thing I see people do a lot, which Etsy states not to do, is just copying their title and putting it at the top of their description. Do not do this. Use a sentence or multiple sentences to describe your products that include keywords. The next important thing to your listing is your average review. I am constantly trying to get 5-star reviews. And to do this, you need to ask recent deliveries how their order went, and then ask them if they can leave an honest review for your store. You can't incentivize them to leave a 5-star, but you can ask them to leave a review. And chances are, if you didn't hear from them already, that they like your design, because people are only going to let you know if they're angry or if there's a quality issue. So if you didn't hear from them, it's probably good news and they'll leave you a good review. And then if you get a bad review, it's important to message the person and try to find a way to resolve this, give them a refund, a replacement, and talk to them and see if they will amend their review, because reviews are so important to your rankings. The next is make sure in your Etsy listing that you are using relevant attributes and you're not ignoring the attributes. So under attributes, we have things like primary color, size, which is scale, sustainability. If your design kind of fits into this, you can fill this out. We have things like you can set the sleeve length. I'm going to hit show all attributes. You can select the neckline, clothing style, if it has an occasion, if it has a holiday like Christmas, if it has a certain type of graphic. And these are important because they also act as tags. So you don't need to use extra tags with these keywords. You don't need to put Christmas as a tag, because using the attributes, you've already told Etsy that this is a Christmas product. And I've always said only to use the attributes that are actually relevant to your design. And I don't think this one really applies to holiday or occasion, because if your product has no tie to either of those, I wouldn't select one. But what Etsy does state here is choose the option that best fits your item, even if it's not exactly how you would describe it. So that's really interesting, and actually probably going to change the way I select some attributes, because sometimes if I'm not exactly sure of one to select, I'll just leave it. But stating here, it sounds like I might start just selecting the ones that are the closest. The next we have is tags. I've always said you need to fill out all 13 tags. And it's funny because this is actually something I've said on my channel for so long. And I mentioned earlier that Etsy's really honing in on this. And this is exactly what I'm talking about, this sentence here. One rule of thumb to follow: if you can't imagine someone typing a phrase into Google, it shouldn't be in your tags. Your tags need to describe your product in a way that someone might use the search function to look for your product. Things like mama gift, custom mama gift, custom mom gift, personalized gift. Tags, again, likely to be typed that are relevant to your product. And finally, the thing that you need to have filled out, and this actually isn't according to your listing, but more of your shop storefront, and that is having your about fully complete. This needs to have your photos, or maybe some photos about your products, needs to have a story, include the members of your shop, including a blurb under them. But I had previously read a long time ago on the Etsy Seller Handbook that if your About Me was not set up, that you would not rank that high, because Etsy would not see your store as complete. Again, they don't mention that here, but they do say that with this actually being filled out, you might have unexpected opportunities, including press coverage, collaborations, and some new opportunities. And with this, don't forget to fill out your shop title. They say here, another place to share your story and influence, search SEO, search engine optimization, is your shop title. This should tell people what you sell. It shouldn't be a copy and paste of your title. It shouldn't be a vague thing about where you live. Your shop title should be a quick, concise way to tell people what you sell. I'll link this article below because there's so many sublinks too if you want more information about any of this. But now also to share my top bonus tip for creating a killer Etsy listing. And that's to make sure that in your Etsy listing, you are covering and answering any potential question someone might have about ordering from you to be able to make a sale. And it might be hard to think about this, so I actually use AI to help me do this now. So on ChatGPT, I wrote, I sell sweatshirts on Etsy. What questions, concerns may someone have when buying from me that I should answer in my photos and description to address these? I want to make sure I'm covering every base and addressing any potential concern that might stop someone from purchasing from me. So I need to make sure I'm addressing questions like sizing and fit concerns, and it'll give me how to address these as well. I should have a size chart. I should have some model photos. In my description, I should have a note about my fit, that I might need to address some material and quality concerns. And it gives me different ways to address these. Again, this is how maybe you can fill out the rest of those 10 photos. But this also will help you craft the perfect description so that people can get all the questions they need answered without having to message you. And if people spend time messaging you, that gives them a window to go buy from somebody else. And just go through this and implement the ones that you find are relevant to the product you're selling, and usually all of them are. Just scrolling down so you guys can see all these, including social proof and trust concerns. Maybe here I want to feature customer reviews. I want to encourage customer photos. I want to showcase sales success. So if I have 5,000 sales, maybe having a text that says 5,000 five-star reviews. If I have 5,000 five-star reviews, don't lie about it. They can see your reviews, but just highlighting that. And yes, again, I just find the best way for this to address things that I might be blind to, but my customers might have a question about. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this helps you make killer listings in 2025 and skyrocket your sales. If this helped at all, if you could please drop a like and subscribe, that would help me a lot. Thank you guys, and I will see you next week.